You're muted and need to unmute.
Okay, now I can say. Can you hear me? Namaste. Sorry, I was muted. Anavan Pavan Kuma Kalabana Pavaka Gyanagam Jasuhardaga Vasairam Sarachadha Atulta Baladhama Himmashala Vadeham Dhanujavan Krishna Jnani Nama Tadanyam Sakala Guna Nidhan Vanaranama Disham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Atajatam Namam Pushpadi Kritavarisham Mashiki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratna Vande Nilatmajam Anjananandaram Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kisamaksahanta Vande Lanka Lankaram Rangasindho Salilam Salilam Yashokavahi Janakatma Jaya Adayatane Dadahalanka Amamitam Pranjali Ranjanayam Manojavam Maruttatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Vadishtam Vatatmajam Vanurtamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Anjaneya Matipatalana Kanchanadi Kamani Avigraham Parijata Taramula Vasanam Avayami Pavamana Nandanam Yatra Yatra Gunata Kirtana Tatra Tatra Kritamasta Kanjalim Vashpavale Paripurna Lochana Martinamat Rakshasantakam Bolo Bajranga Bali Hanuman ki jai. Ram 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 Sita Ram 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 Sita Ram Ram Hare Ram 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 Sita Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Sita Ram 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 Sitaram, Ram Ram, Sitaram, Ram Sitaram, Ram Ram, Sitaram, Ram Ram. Ram Ram, Sitaram, Ram Ram, Sitaram, 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 Ram Ram, Sitaram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Ram Sitaram, Ram Ram Sitaram, Ram Sitaram, Ram Ram Sitaram, Ram Ram. Ram Sitaram, Ram Ram Sitaram, 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 Ram Sitaram, Ram Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare, Jai Jai. Jai 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 Ram Krishna. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare. Jai Jai. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hare. 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 Sitaram Jai Sitaram. Sitaram Jai Sitaram. Sitaram Jai Sitaram. Sitaram Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, Sitaram, Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Mantra to Hanuman. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham, that's the Bij mantra, seed syllable that invokes Hanuman. Ham. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Sing it together. Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Om When we chant these names, try not to have any expectation. We don't need to manipulate our emotions to feel anything special, anything particular. We don't have to try to get off. Because anything we can conceive of in our thoughts and emotions that we want is not the real thing. But through the repetition of these names, the real thing will manifest eventually. Maharaji said over and over, through the repetition of these names, everything is accomplished. Everything is accomplished. That's a very big statement and a very powerful statement. So if you find yourself thinking of the future, let it go. If you find yourself remembering the past, let it go. If you find yourself wishing for something to be something else, let it go. Just keep letting go of the past, the future, of whatever shows up in your consciousness, and stay with the sound of the name. It's not what we think. It already is, and it is deeper within us than our thoughts and emotions. And the way we open that up is through these practices. So it's not necessary to be tense or to try too hard. The hardest thing is to give up our expectations about how we want to feel. Wanna. That's pretty much the way we live. Wanna, don't wanna. Sometimes Maharaji would repeat these two words over and over again. Tul, nan. Sometimes for hours. Tul, nan, tul, nan, tul. So one day one of the devotees said, Baba, what those words mean are too little, too much, too much. Too is too much, non is too little, too much, too little, too little. He said, Baba, what is that? And he said, this is your minds. This is what's going on in your minds. You're always judging, evaluating, measuring. Too much of this, too little of this, too much of this, too little of that. So, in these times of specific, dedicated practice, we make these kind of efforts. The rest of the day, things come to us through the day. The mantras come back. They float through our brains. We try to repeat them a little bit. But at these moments of dedicated practice, we make that kind of effort to be at ease and open and letting things go and staying with the sound of the name. Om Namo Gurudev Nim Karoli Babaya Swaha Namaha. Om Namo Gurudev Nim Karoli Babaya Namaha. Sharanam, Shri Hari Sharanam, Shri Guru Sharanam, Shri Hari Sharanam, Shri Guru Sharanam, Shri Hari Sharanam. Shri Guru Sharanam, Shri Hari Sharanam, Shri Guru Sharanam, Shri Hari Sharanam, Shri Guru Sharanam. Shri Guru Sharanam, Shri Hari Sharanam, Shri Guru Charanam Hare Charanam Guru Charanam Shri Hare Charanam Shri Guru Charanam Shri Hare Charanam. Okay. See questions. We have a new format this time. The questions will be emailed in. There'll be an announcement, but from this time on, number one, only email a question if you're going to be here for the session. There are other times and other ways I suppose to get in touch with me for questions, but only email the questions in probably on the day of the session, or if you know for sure you're going to be here for the session. And then keep it short, please. Just like you would in the chat. Just a short paragraph, a few lines. Otherwise, I can't read through it while I'm trying to respond. So that would be very helpful. Thank you. So next week, the 27th to the 1st, I'll be at Menla with Bob Thurman and others. Part of it is virtual and part of it is non-virtual. Actual living human beings in person. And then I'm going to India later in January, and I'll be singing at Auroville in just south of Chennai, near Pondicherry, on February 12th. That you need to register for that with the ashram out there. That'll be announced soon. Then February 19th, I'll be in Rishikesh doing the benefit for Nanima's Ganga Prem Hospice and Hospital, which we've been doing every year until the pandemic came and we weren't able to do that. So then April 14th to 17th, we'll be doing a weekend retreat, a 4-day retreat at Garrison, 14, 15, 16, 17, yeah. In Garrison Foundation in Garrison, New York. Okay. Do I believe that people can have contact with someone far away? Well, absolutely. We're all connected. Every being in the universe is connected. Most of us are not aware of that connection or aren't aware of the depth of that connection, and we seek connection on different levels. There can be mental connection, emotional connection, vibrational connections, but yeah, you can be connected with people that are far away. I mean, far away is physical. So if we're attached to our physical being, then there's this body and somebody else's body, and that could be anywhere. But if we're not attached to our physical, or only attached to our physical body, then we might not be locked into time and place like that. The great beings are everywhere at once. They're aware of everything all the time. They're not locked in prison of the physical body, emotional body, or their thoughts. So they are ever present. From the time that Maharaji left his body in 1973, you said that after that you went into a dark place for how many years? For so many years. How many years did that last? And during that time, was there any practice you followed? And if so, what was it? It was, well, there were two, I would say, let's just say it lasted 11 years. And no, there was no practice that I was capable of doing at that time to help myself. And when I was in Kenchi in 1984, I had a very life-changing experience with Siddhima, and Maharaji came back to me and opened me up. And he showed me he had always been with me every second of every day, but that I had closed myself off with my own stuff. But he showed me he had always been there, had never left me. And that was a really big change in my life. But no, there was nothing I could do to help myself. I was crippled. I could not do anything to help myself. They saved me. For whatever reason, they did. And so here we are. But of course, I wanted to be saved. I was longing for that, although I didn't expect it, because I didn't think I would ever be happy again after he left the body. And luckily, I was wrong. How do you deal with situations where people hurt you, say mean things because they themselves are hurting? How can one be compassionate yet not become someone's punching bag during such situations? Ah, well. When the idea of being compassionate, you see, you don't include yourself in the compassion, the way you ask that question. You are thinking you only can be compassionate to other people, or try to be, and make yourself a punching bag. So that's not being compassionate to yourself. Compassion for all beings includes you. You are one of the all beings. And that's really the hard part for Westerners anyway. We have so much self-loathing and self-hatred and self-judging and programs that run through our minds that tell us we're shit and we don't matter and we'll never be happy and we're not worthy of love and all that stuff. That's all going on all the time in all of us. So developing compassion includes oneself. You have to find out what that means. Words aren't enough. You have to experience that. You have to get into it. You have to try to experience what that means. And of course, you can be with people even if they're nasty to you. Those are the people that really help you, show you where you're at. Unfortunately, the only time we learn is when we suffer. And when people are mean to us and hurtful to us, we suffer. And that shows us where we're stuck. Because what should it matter what somebody says? Right? Why should it matter? But it does. Why? Because we don't love ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves, we don't love other people either, by the way. We can only love someone else as much love as we have. And love doesn't start outside there somewhere. It starts in here. So, yeah, you just have to kind of really start to see the situation clearly. And really, when you do slow down a little bit and start thinking about other people and noticing other people more, rather than just our own stuff, you see how much pain most people are in, how lost most people are, how they have absolutely no understanding that there could be any other way to live. And out of that frustration and lack of love and lack of sweetness in their own hearts, they hurt other people and they hurt themselves. And when you really see that, you don't take it personally. When you really see it. When you just start to see it, you still take it personally. But when you really, when it becomes clearer as time goes on, that what other people think have nothing to do with you at all. So it's good work. If I had never went to see Ram Dass and felt that love, do I think I would have eventually found Maharaji's love? Who knows? I don't know. When K.K. Shah first brought my letter and Danny's letter and Rameshwar Das's letter to Maharaji to ask him if we could come, he said, no, tell him not to come. What do I have to do with this? But if it had been another devotee and not KK, somebody probably would have written back, Maharaji says, don't come, bye. And who knows what would have happened. But because it was KK, and because Maharaji himself had given the seva, or the asked KK to help Ram Dass when he was in India the first time, he felt that he was helping Ram Dass by helping us. And now Maharaji was interfering with the very seva that he gave KK to do, and KK wouldn't accept that. So he just looked down and started to pout and stopped feeding Maharaji the apple. And finally Maharaji said, okay, tell him what you want. So KK wouldn't lie, but he phrased it as he phrased it. As you know, great beings don't encourage the devotees to come to them, but their doors are always open. So if you're here in India, you can see them. Fine. I mean, I didn't hear that story about that day, too many years later. But that's how it happened. So who knows why it worked, it unfolded the way it did. Perhaps because of previous connections, previous karmic connections, it had to happen that way. That doesn't mean it couldn't have happened another way, but that's neither here nor there. It did happen that way. And so I have tremendous gratitude to Ram Dass. And by the way, today is the anniversary, the 3rd year since he left the body. So it's nice to talk about him with you. He really had become something special. He always was something special, but his own mind, his own stuff caused him suffering. But after 20 years in that wheelchair, he had cooked a lot of that stuff, and it just did not, he had really overcome much of the obstacles in his own being, in his own heart and mind mostly, and emotions. Really had become a wonderful beacon of love and light. Yeah. What do the words to the chant Saraswati mean? Om Aim. Aim is the Bij mantra for Saraswati. A Bij mantra is a seed syllable that invokes the presence of Saraswati, or any deity. Ham is Hanuman, Ram is Ram, etc., etc. There are many, many Bij mantras for different aspects of the same being too. So Om Aim Saraswati Namaha Om. So it's just Om, Bij mantra for Saraswati, Tu Saraswati, I bow. That's all it means. It's a pranam mantra. Pranam means to bow. Somebody's worrying, did Maharaji give any guidance around food? You know, we went there with lots of ideas about food. There were macrobiotics, there were vegetarians, there weren't a lot of vegans in those days. There were all kinds of diets and everything in the 60s, early 70s. But basically, Maharaji just said eat a pure diet, simple, pure food. And basically, you know, and of course, vegetarian. Although I don't remember him telling people to be vegetarian, but I remember one time we started the Indians always peeled the apples that they gave to Maharaji, that they cut for Maharaji. So one time, I think it was Parvati, told somebody not to peel the apple. And Maharaji said, "Why?" Parvati said, "All the vitamins are in the skin of the apple." And Maharaji said something. Wow, these people know everything. So yeah, he didn't give a lot of dietary restrictions. He didn't give a lot of instructions. He didn't tell us to meditate. He told us to love everyone and serve everyone and to remember God. That's what basically his teachings came down to for us. And yeah, it was very simple time, very simple teaching. Not easy, but simple. There weren't a lot of mantras, a lot of things to do. You know, one time, the man who supplied the temple with ghee and supplies and flour and everything, came up to see Maharaji, and he brought a friend of his. And Maharaji said to the friend of this guy, "Why did you come? At your guru's place, there's kirtan and bhajan and all kinds of things going on. Here, it's just ao, cow, jow. Come, eat, go." But how beautiful is that? You see, Maharaji wasn't a teacher. He was a Mahasiddha, somebody who does it, changes you, transmits to you. He doesn't teach like that. And through the food and his presence, come, eat, go. That's all he needs for you to do. He doesn't even need that, but that's what you need to get there. Some people, other people don't need to get there, but that's what he was saying. Here it's just come, eat, go. And he did feed people, and I truly believe that in the feeding, there was tremendous Shakti and transmission of being and love in the food. Great blessings in the food, that the prasad given out in the temple. So, I'm sorry, this question about the Ukraine is just too long at this point. Write to me again if you can. I love someone, and because of some circumstances, we cannot be together. It hurts, and I sometimes think that I may have to live my whole life wishing it could have happened. Why is Maharaji doing this? Why can't Maharaji stop the pain and make it all right? He is my father. I don't know whether you're saying that the person you can't be with is your father, or whether you're saying Maharaji is your father. But either way, what's required for happiness in our lives is surrender. We can't be telling Maharaji what to do. that means you have no faith that he knows what to do, that he's not who he is. Surrender means accepting the situation as it is and doing whatever you can to transform it. But first, you have to accept it is the way it is for reasons. Nothing can happen without a cause. There's no effect that could ever be without a cause of that effect. If this situation is the way it is, there's reasons that it's that way. That may not be just from this life. It doesn't even matter what the reasons are. But our job is to say, this is the way it is. What can I do in my own heart to live with this in a good way? Now look at Ram Dass. Big guy, big famous guy, running around the world, giving lectures, playing golf, flying planes, driving cars. A stroke. More than 20 years in his life in a wheelchair. At first, Ram Dass thought, he said, Maharaji stroked me, he said. And he believed that Maharaji had given him that stroke. Not to hurt him, but whatever, what to do. But when he met Siddhi Ma for the only time after the stroke, she immediately said to him, Ram Dass, Maharaji would never give you a stroke. The stroke is your karma. What he gives you is the grace to use this situation to grow. So the situation with you and this person is your karma. What you can tap into is the grace to use the situation to grow. It is the way it is. That doesn't mean it's always going to be that way, but it is that way now. And so you must deal with it as it is, and you have to find the best way to deal with it. And if you're talking about Maharaji didn't do this to you. Come on. Why would you even think that? He's not your angry father, or your angry mother, or your angry uncle. He's God. God doesn't do these things. These are our karmas. We've created these situations. But that presence of love is always here, but we don't feel it. And so we complain about things all the time. That's not surrender. If you want to get on with your work, surrender to the situation, which means to see it clearly. You don't have to like it, but you have to accept that it is the way it is for whatever reasons. And then find a way, find out what it's teaching you. Try to find out what you need to do, what it shows you about yourself. And as you change yourself, the situation will change. Are the chants in Sanskrit, Hindi, or something else? Most of these chants are Sanskrit. The names are essentially in Sanskrit. The Hanuman Chalisa, the Arti, that's Hindi. That's a language that's spoken more now. Sanskrit is not really spoken by people now that much. It's mostly for the priests and people who study language and study the prayers and stuff. It's not the language of the people. In the north, Hindi and other parts of India, there are other languages. But the chants, the names essentially, I guess, are Sanskrit. But like I said, the Hanuman Chalisa, Bajrang Ban, I also sing the Arti sometimes. These are in Hindi. I would like to hear from KD, what is the role, relationship, and insight about money? When will he answer those questions? I don't know. When will he answer those questions? I don't have a lot of insight into money and the relationships. one of the things they say is that if you have money in this life, it's because you were generous in another life. And the generosity created the situation for you to have more of that kind of Shakti or power or energy in the form of money and physical beauty and lots of stuff. If you're, but do you see rich people have so much fear of losing their money that many of them are not very generous. So actually what they're doing is they're spending the karmas of generosity, but they're not making more. So also Maharaji was mostly what we saw with Maharaji is that he was with householders, not with sadhus, not with renunciates. Most of the time he spent his time with householders, helping them, distributing alms to them, helping them get jobs, helping them have children, helping their children grow up well, helping them solve problems in their house, doing all kinds of things. He was very involved in the daily lives of people. Very involved. There's story after story after story of one time he was at this house and he said, okay, I want to go see somebody in town. So they brought the car around, and then at the last moment, Maharaji said, no, let's take a rickshaw. So they called a rickshaw, and they get on the rickshaw, and Maharaji starts talking to the rickshawwala, who he'd never met before. He called him by name, and he said, your wife's at home, and she's sick. Yes, Baba. Take me to her. So the rickshawwala, they drove to his house. Maharaji goes in the house, blesses the woman, she gets better. He was doing this all the time. No one had to tell him these things. So money is a part of life. We need it to get the things we need, food, shelter, etc. Ultimately, it would be good to be able to not be greedy, but it's very difficult for us to share and give. But you have to have money. Money is in India. Sadhus can go walking around and people will feed them. At least in the old days. Now in the West, they'll put you in a mental hospital. So here you have to have a job. In the West, you have to make money. If you want to have a family, if you want to have a house to live in, you have to make money. That's the way it is. In India, it's food is the most important thing. In the West, it's money. Because money gets you all those things. When hope is lost and courage has run out, how to bring the heart to practice? I sing the names every day and have learned the full Chalisa this year, all of which is a total blessing that has gotten me through one of the hardest years of my life. But somehow, I just wish to ask for your help with how to keep showing up when meeting a sustained feeling of brokenheartedness and hopelessness. Well, I've had all those feelings too, and I have them off and on, hopelessness and what's the other one you said? Brokenheartedness, all that. But they don't stay forever. They come and they go. When they're here, when the cloud has surrounded us, it feels one of the qualities of that emotion is that it is forever. It'll always be like this. But it isn't. It may feel that way. That's part of that feeling, that there's no hope. My heart is broken. It'll never be, never, 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 never. It'll always be like this. That's when you're in it, that's the reality. But you're not always in it. You go to a movie, you forget about it. You go to sleep, you don't feel it. So some people are more accustomed, have that depression, that relationship with depression in their lives. I'm one of those people. That no matter what we do, we sense it's almost like that's the ground we walk on. And practice will transform that, change the way you go through your day over time. And what are the options? You say, should I keep showing up? How to keep showing up? What are your options? No, don't show up. Where are you going to go? You're always going to be there. You are showing up. You have to show up. That's your nature to show up as well, even in the face of these being bombarded with these depressive thoughts. When you're chanting, even though you might be surrounded by that cloud, if your job is to stay with the sound of the name, when you notice that you're aware of the cloud of depression, you come back to the sound of the name. But you're stuck. It's like glue to that cloud. But every time you come back, that glue thins out a little bit. And when that depression goes away, you're going to miss it. You may not think so, but we're so used to that space of being brokenhearted and feeling bad underneath everything and trying to avoid that feeling. When we don't feel bad, it's a very strange feeling. I joke about it. I say that sometimes I mope around just for fun because it's so familiar. I miss that familiar feeling of being mopey. So just keep doing your stuff. Keep talking to Maharaji. Keep doing the chalisas. You know, if you feel called to, there is a puja of doing Hanuman Chalisa 108 times, and you ask for a boon. You ask Hanuman Maharaji for whatever you want to ask. I would suggest you ask for the thing that you want most in the world, whatever that is. But you can ask for a new car if you want. And then you start a little puja, you offer some fruit and flowers or whatever. And then you chant, read, sing, talk the Hanuman Chalisa for 108 times. During one session. You can get up and pee, you can get up and make coffee, but keep the Chalisa going. You don't have to sing it. You can read it. You can do it quickly. The first time I did that, it took me 13 hours, I think, because I sang every one. Now when I do it, I can do it in about 4 hours. And when you do it, every line of the Chalisa, is an offering to Hanuman Maharaji. And you're connecting to them. Sometimes you do an intense practice like that. Sometimes it can help. I'm not saying that you're going to finish the practice and you're going to be happy for the rest of your life. Who'd even want to be that, you know? Depression people, they don't want to be happy. They like it. So we have lots of reasons for not letting love in, believe me, and they're all good, solid reasons. So anyhow, you could do that. If you feel called to that, that's a game changer. Like when I'm really stuck in something, and suffering, that's what I will do. I will do that practice. I will do 108 Chalisas. And, but another thing to think about is don't push this away. You are not the cloud around you. You are not the depression. You are not the feeling. So there's no reason to try to push it away. Allow it to be. You can't push it away. If you push it away, it sticks to you. If you try to hold on to it, it just goes through your fingers. Notice it. Be with it. It's here. Give it space to exist. But you're still here. And it is not you. It is a feeling. It is an object of awareness, of consciousness. Just like a tree or a table or the sky. It's a feeling. It's a thought. For us, it's a pretty submersive kind of thought and feeling, but it's still not who we are. It's a thought. So sometimes when you do like a practice like 108 Chalisas, you put that effort in, and that effort mobilizes something inside of us. So, good luck. Maharaj used to say, I go to church every Christmas. What? I was with him one Christmas. He didn't go to church. I sang the Hanuman Chalisa to him with my friend Draupadi in a hotel room in Mumbai in 1972, Christmas 1972. Christmas Eve. I don't think he went to church physically. At a recent retreat in Maui, I mentioned briefly that Ravana did not, in fact, kidnap Sita, but rather another woman or soul. Could you please explain this a bit more for me? Oh, yeah. In Kishkindakanda, which is at the end of which I believe Ravana kidnaps Sita, Rama sends Lakshmana off to hunt. And he's alone with Sita. This is one of the only times they say he was actually alone with Sita, because Lakshmana was always there. And he says, Sita, we're about to do a big Leela here. So you have to disappear. So she, I don't know the mechanics of it, but I'm forgetting what they say. She takes a subtle form. Her body's still there, but she's not in it. And she's replaced in her body by a heavenly Apsara who was cursed to be on the earth. And so Ravana actually doesn't kidnap Sita. He kidnaps the body, in which this Apsara is living temporarily. And then at the end, when Rama asks Sita to purify herself in the fire, which of course is ridiculous because Sita is always pure. No, she could never be impure. There's no Not even a question about it. She's the goddess. She's Shakti. She's Maya. So that's when the real Sita comes back through the fire and the Apsara goes back to heaven, having done her job. So that whole thing, and it's in the Ramayana. You can, I don't remember. KK showed us where it is, but I don't have the actual verse. And I believe it's towards the end of Kishkinda Kanda. So, well, okay. Please talk about the best methods to deal with uncertainty that seems to be so heightened in our society world right now. You have to do some practice. You can't talk yourself into peace of mind. You can't talk yourself into calmness. You can a little bit, but it doesn't last. From practice, we get the strength to meet our experiences that arise in a different way. And everybody has to find their own way into that. I don't know enough to tell anybody anything. Simply, I just say that what I do is chant. And sing Hanuman Chalisa, repeat Hanuman Chalisa, meditate on that, so to speak. And what that does is that cuts down the amount of reaction to the horrible things that are happening in this world. And actually allows me to make decisions that could maybe help myself and others, rather than when I'm just reacting from fear or anxiety. So practice, regular practice. It has to be regular. If you only do it when you feel like it, it ain't going to do you any good. You have to do it when you don't feel like it. And that's not easy. Because when you don't feel like it, you don't feel like it. And we're used to doing what we like and not to do what we don't like. But practice takes practice. So that's the best way. And you find an inner way to deal with things. You yourself will find it. You yourself will shift your attitude will shift. The way you see things will shift. And hopefully we become more compassionate and more kind and more caring, and we bring that into the world. I am having trouble seeing where telling the truth fits into Hinduism. An acquaintance of mine who is Hindu seems to have no problem with lying for convenience. Could you give me some tips on how to handle this and what to expect? It's hard to tell the truth because what we think is true is just relatively true. It's true in our little world. It might not be true in that other person's world. And so telling the truth from our point of view might be hurtful to other people. But what Maharaji told Ramdas was, Ramdas, love everyone and tell the truth. So once you love everyone, the truth is that you love everyone. You don't hate anybody. You don't judge anybody. So Ramdas, of course, the truth is I don't love everyone. And Maharaji looked at him and said, Ramdas, love everyone and tell the truth. So Ramdas saw where he had to go. He saw that he had to get to the place where the truth is that he loves everyone. Because that's the ultimate truth, that we are love. Our own true nature is that love. what you have to do on a daily basis to get through the day, not that important. Sometimes little white lies to avoid hurting people, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But lying to hurt people, that wouldn't be very good. So, and not everybody who was born in India and identifies as a Hindu is a saint. Most of us are just human beings with lots of work to do, regardless of where we were born. Was there a relationship between Neem Karoli Baba and Bhagwan Nityananda? Bhagwan Nityananda was Swami Muktananda's guru. I don't know if there was a relationship, but Maharaji respected him very much. The first time we met Maharaji, our very first darshan, a picture of Nityananda fell out of Danny's book. And Maharaji said, "What is that? What is that?" And he held the picture up. He said, "Oh, he's a good sadhu." You know, that's the highest praise. That's like God in human form for Maharaji, because he knows everything. He knows all the bogus swamis. He knows all the fakes, all the charlatans. He knows all that. He could see all that. But he recognized, of course, I'm sure he knew Nityananda about him before. Whether they met, I don't know. But he said, he's a good sadhu. So that's the good housekeeping seal of approval for sadhus. And so, we in our pujas, we keep pictures of other great beings because they're also fantastic. Why not? All right. When I do japa of my guru mantra, I cannot rotate the beads after a certain point. My fingers just freeze. So don't use it. Your fingers, whatever it is, I don't think it's anything spiritual. I mean, a spiritual problem, it's a physical problem. You don't need to use the mantra, the rosary. If you think you have to count your mantras, then you could write it down. Make a mark on a piece of paper or get a clicker. The Buddhists sometimes use these clickers now. Every time you say the mantra, you click it and it totals up the mantras. I'm not into counting. Nobody ever told me how to count my mantras, so I don't know. Sometimes I use a mala, sometimes I don't. The breath is like a mala, constantly going round and round. If you merge the japa with your breath, that's a very powerful practice. All right. Some of these questions are too long and some of these questions are unanswerable by me. So that's it for today. Thank you for sending them in. I appreciate it. And remember, ongoing now, when I'm going to be here live, but please send the questions the day of the session or whatever this is, the day of this meeting, only if you're going to be here with it live. And then also, please keep it to one paragraph, one short paragraph if you can, because I have to read through it and it takes too long. So. Shri Guru Charan Saroja Raja Chimana Mukura Sudhari Varano Raghubara Bimala Jasu Jodaya Kupalachari Buddhihin Tanu Janake Smiram Pavan Kumar Siyaram Allah Buddhi Vidya Dehu Mohi Arukale Sabika Savara Ramachandra Padjay Sharanam Hanuman Gyana Guna Saga Jek Pisati Loka Ujara Ramadutta Tulta Baladham Anjani Putra Pavana Sutanam Mahavira Vikram Ajarangi Umatinavar Sumati Kesan Kanchana Varana Viraj Subesa Kanana Kundala Kanchita Kesa Atabajra Varatvaja Viraja Kande Munja Jene Usaja Shankara Suvan Kesarinam Teja Pratapa Mahajagabam Vidyavan Guni Ati Chaturam Kachikari Bekoat Prabhu Charita Suni Bekorasi Ramalakhan Sita Manabasi Sukshma Rupa Darasya Hindikava Vikata Rupa Dare Lanka Jarava Bhima Rupa Dare Asura Sanhara Ramachandra Ke Kaj Samvar Raya Sajivana Lakhana Niyaya Veera Gubira Rashi Udalai Ragpati Kinhi Bort Barai Tuma Mama Priya Bharatai Samabhai Sahasamadan Tumaro Jasagam Asakai Shri Pati Kanta Laga Sanakadika Brahmadi Munisa Narada Sharada Saita Ahisa Yamakuber Digapala Jahante Kabiko Bidakai Sake Kahante Tumapupakara Sugriva Inkina Rama Melaya Raja Padadina Tumaro Mantra Bibhishanamana Lankeshwara Bhai Sabha Jagajan Kasahasra Jojana Paravan Viryota Himadura Palajan Prabhu Mudrika Ele Mukamahi Chaladilange Gaya Acharajanahi Durga Makhaja Jagat Kejete Sugam Anugrah Tumare Tete Ramaduvare Tumarakovare Otana Agya Binu Pezar Sab Sukhalaye Tumhari Sharana Tumara Chaka Kahu Kodaran Apana Teja Samaro Ape Tinon Loka Hankaten Kampe Rupate Sashana Katana He Ave Mahavir Jabanam Sunave Nasero Hare Sabapir Japata Niranjaran Matabir Sankatate Hanuman Churave Manakram Bachan Dhyana Jolave Sapapara Rama Tapasaviraja Tinake Kaj Sakala Tumasaja Or Manorata Joko Elave Sove Amita Jiran Palapave Charon Yuga Paratapa Tumara Hai Parasiddha Jagata Ujjayara Sadhu Santa Ke Marakovari Asura Nikandana Ramadulari Ashta Siddhino Nidike Data Asavaradin Janaki Mata Rama Rasayana Tumare Pa पास, सदा रहो रघुपति के दास। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हर भक्त कहाई। और देवता छिट न डरई, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीर, जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीर। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई। जो शत बार पाठ कर कोई, छुट ही बंदी महासुख होय। जो यह पर हनुमान चालीसा, होया सिद्धि साखी गणेश। तुलसीदास सदा हरिचेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय मंदिर। पवन तनय संकट हरण, मंगल मूर्ति रूप सिया राम। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहि सुरभूप सियावर। रामचंद्र पद जय शरण। मंगल मूर्ति मारुत नंदन, सकल अमंगल मूल निकंदन। मंगल मूर्ति मारुत नंदन, सकल मंगल मूल निकंदन। श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। जय सिया राम जय बाबा हनुमान, संकट मोचन कृपा निधान। जय सिया राम जय बाबा हनुमान, करुणा सागर कृपा निधान। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। समस्त सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोका sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta 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 sukhino bhavantu. We wish that all beings everywhere be happy. And we wish that not just for ourselves, so we'll be safe, but that all beings will be safe and happy. It's a funny little thing there. A lot of our compassion is still self-centered. Well, if they're not angry and pissed off, I'm cool. If they're not suffering, they won't bother me. See, that's all egoistic. Still centered in me, me, me. We want people to be happy because they should be happy for themselves, not just so it doesn't affect us. So, may all beings be safe, may all beings be happy, may all beings be healthy and live with ease everywhere in all the worlds, and in this one too. Namaste. See you around.